Welcome to this new video in which you'll discover a template for finding expired domain names and qualifying them according to your personal criteria. In the end, thanks to Automa, we were able to automatically find expired domain names and keep only the best ones at the end, in the form of an Excel export based on the various criteria that correspond to us. That's the template. So it's quite small because it's quite long, so I'll have to zoom in on it. But first, let me show you the demo. First, I get some expired domains from expert domains. Then I check their availability on Internet BS. Then I check whether or not they can be indexed with Scrap Me Now. So here we come to the end. There's one domain left to check in terms of indexing. So once this stage, we're only going to keep the domains that are still indexed. And we'll go SI Observer to check the backlink inks for each domain. So here we go, SI Observer, we're going to analyze the inks. And there you have it. There's not just one left, but in any case, there's a lot less left than when we started. Here's the CSV file I'm showing you in Excel, in which I have 11 domains. When I started, in fact, I had 25. So you see, in Automa here, I find I had 25 domains. So in the end, after all these qualifying tests, I only have 11 left. But at least I know that these are domains that are really available and that meet my criteria. How does this template work? Let's zoom in. First of all, we're going to open expert domains with, in the URL, directly defined criteria. So in terms of TFRD, etc., this will allow me to retrieve the 25 domains. I set the limit, but you can retrieve 100, 200, whatever. But for the demo, to go faster, I only use 25. So here, I retrieve my 25 domains, which I record, in fact, behind, in a variable I call domain. Since I'm using this block to retrieve the content, I target the results and store them in a variable. Then, in JavaScript, I perform a simple operation that transforms the resulting array into a comma-separated list. So each domain separated by a comma. This allows me afterwards to go to Internet BS in the search form here. So with the forms block, I feed it with this list of domains separated by commas. I click on the validation button. Then I check the results to see if the available only box is ticked. This ensures that only non-domains actually available for registration are displayed. If this isn't the case, I click on the available only button to activate it. Then the same principle applies to the exact match button. Is it activated or not? If it's not activated, I click on it to make sure I only get the domains as I've entered them to avoid having other equivalent proposals by Internet BS. And in both cases, as you may have noticed, if ever it's already clicked, we move on to the next step. We don't click on it. That's it. Same thing with the Include Premiums button. I'll make sure that this button is disabled this time. So it looks like this. So if it's not disabled, I click on it to disable it. Then I wait about 2 seconds and retrieve the results, which I assign to an available domains variable. So there, that means I've got the list of domains actually available for registration. Next step, I go to Scrap Me Now. This is the tool I use to check site indexing. Same principle. This new list I've just obtained is a table. So here, same principle as before in JavaScript. In fact, this array I've just obtained is transformed into a list, but this time, not of domains separated by a comma, but separated by a line break. In Scrap Me Now, in the window I enter this list, I click on the button to confirm the launch. Once I've launched the verification, well, afterwards, I'll retrieve the percentage of completion automatically. And I check, it's not equal to 100%. As long as it's not equal to 100%, then I go back to the recovery of the percentage. And just like that, I recover the percentage of progress constantly and in real time. And as soon as this condition is not met, so as soon as it's equal to 100%, which means we're done, I create an index domain variable and initialize it to a blank value. From there, I crawl each site in the scrap miner result to check the number of index pages. In other words, if I come back to scrap miner, I'll retrieve this table and check the number column. So here I retrieve the number column, record it, the result in a number variable. Then I check whether the site is indexed or not, i.e. if this number is greater than 0. After that, everyone can say no, but I think that to avoid the 4-page filter, we'll say from 5 from 10. In this demo, as soon as this number is greater than 0, I consider that the site is indexed. So that's good. If the site analyzed is not indexed, I reach the end of my loop, which checks the results, and I move on to the next site. So I've checked one line here, I move on to the next line and so on. If it's properly indexed, what do? In this case, I retrieve the domain in question and save it in a variable I call domain. This allows me to update the previously created variable, which had an empty value. In this way, it will be populated with all the domains that are actually indexed. And once we've checked all the results in ScrapMiner, we'll move on to the last step, SI Observer. Here, we'll go into bulk mode to check. Here, we'll enter the remaining domains. So in this form field here, we enter the domains. In the category, I choose domain. In view type, I choose the detailed view. Then I click on the button to validate. And I get these results. If the results are correct, I apply a little treatment to the web page because I have to create a loop on the table, but the table isn't properly formatted for looping. So I actually modify the page source code to create the little table I like. And this is a code that ChatGPT enabled me to obtain. He's the one who created the code according to my request. So this allows me to create my loop on each result for each site. And for each site, I get the domain here. I consider that there are no non-Latin characters, so I create a variable to know to say that at the start, I don't think I've found any. From there, I'll create a loop precisely on the inks here, on this column here, and I'll check each ink one by one. So I create my loop. I read the current ink. So it's a table with table, tr, td tags. So I read each line of the table. Then, with the condition block, I'm going to check that the ink is not, so no Russian, Japanese, or Chinese ink. So that's thanks to very specific regular expressions to check this. ChatGPT gave them to me. So it really checks for each type of language whether it matches or not. If one of the conditions defined in this block is met, which means we found at least one non-Latin ink, Russian, Japanese, Chinese, whatever. In this case, my value, which I had initialized to no, corresponding to whether or not we found a non-Latin ink, I change it to yes. And I've reached the end of my loop for inks, so I'll move on to the next ink. And at the end, I check the value of this famous variable, because if only one ink has ever been found, a non-Latin ink, initially this value was set to no, but it will switch to yes as soon as a non-Latin ink is found. So if no non-Latin ink is found, in that case, perfect. I add the domain to my final result. But if, on the other hand, at least one non-Latin ink was found, then I don't add it. And I've reached the end of my loop of domains. So in any case, we'll move on to the next domain. And at the end, I have a block that will allow me to export the whole thing in CSV. This gives the result you saw earlier in the Excel file. So with these different steps, I was able to find expired domain names, and I was able to qualify them according to my criteria. So in terms of availability, ink quality, and indexing. And all this is done automatically in just a few dozen seconds. So you can analyze hundreds of expired domains and keep only the best ones at the end, according to the criteria that best suit you. You'll find this template in my Automa training, so you can analyze and test it yourself. The link is in the video description. you didn't understand everything. Don't worry, that's normal. It wasn't a training video, but a demonstration video. The aim of my training is to teach you how to progressively master Automa so that you'll be comfortable using all templates. If you like this video, please feel free to like, comment, and share it. It's my motivation to make more videos for you. And if you have any ideas for templates you'd like to see in a future video, let me know in the comments. And of course, so you don't miss any future videos, subscribe to my channel